Hi, folks. Welcome to Never on the Back Foot. In tonight's discussion, we are doing a deep dive into the squads of Chennai Super Kings, Punjab Kings, Gujarat Titans, Sunrisers Hyderabad, and Mumbai Indians. We're looking at their strengths, weaknesses, basically, what we can expect from them in this season. And I'm joined by Naman, who's really, riding a day of good luck. Hopefully, it carries on to this discussion as well. So, hi, Naman. First up, how are you doing before, we start talking about the IPL season at large? I can see the smile plastered on your face, but excited for this discussion and the IPL season?
Yeah, pretty excited as usual. And yeah, like you mentioned, it's been a pretty good day so far. Officially done with my coursework here, and yeah, my MBA is over now. So, pretty good on that note. Looking forward to the season. Lots of things to expect, lots of excitement building up. So, yeah, great to discuss it with you here, like always.
Absolutely, Naman. I mean, the fact that the moment I hit you up for this collaboration, you were like, game on, and we're doing a two-part series. So, tonight we're going to have a lengthy discussion, followed by tomorrow as well. But before we get to the season itself, right, let's talk about some of the IPL updates that we received today. I mean, one was about the revocation of the ban on the use of saliva, right, to make the cricket ball shine, and how I think Shami recently spoke about how it should be probably reconsidered because of the reverse swing aspect and all of that. Now, BCCI, being the first cricketing board to actually take some action on it, and we will see it, during the IPL. So, again, your thoughts on this one?
This gives me nostalgia because the very first episode we did together was on this very issue during COVID. That is the first thing we discussed about the use of saliva in shining the ball. That's how we started. So yeah, it's a full circle that we're going back 5 years. So the initiative in itself is pretty good because this is going to ensure that there's an even balance between bat and ball. We can expect the ball to swing a bit more, so that's a pretty good thing with the use of saliva. However, the latter part that you highlighted, BCCI being the first one to take this initiative ahead, the fact that the ICC has not yet revoked it, has still not permitted the use of saliva to shine the ball, that is a place where, again, all these debates when they come up is BCCI dictating terms at the ICC and, all those sort of questions and debates. So this will again probably spark that. And so I'm not sure on that note how well it would reflect at the global stage. But as an initiative in itself, since it is a BCCI tournament, within BCCI's capacity, if it can introduce rules like the impact player or rules like DRS for a wide, then yeah, maybe shouldn't be a major issue. And it's not something that has not been in the game for a long time. It has always been there. It was just removed as a precautionary measure during the pandemic. So it's a welcome move for the bowling community, and me being a part of it would welcome it with both the arms.
Absolutely. And I think as the season unfolds, we'll kind of see the parity between bat and ball finally being restored. So let's see how that pans out. And then another interesting move as well, right? Because of the dew factor, especially in the night games, and again to kind of restore the balance, we've seen how the BCCI has decided to introduce a second new ball for the second innings, right? For the night games, especially. Again, Naman, early thoughts on this one? Do you think it's kind of like the right move? Does it again, kind of make it very easy for the bowlers, or the batters are really going to struggle? Chases are going to get insanely difficult. Your thoughts?
See, to begin with, I believe this might have an impact on the decisions that teams would make when it comes to the toss. Teams like that decision so far in certain conditions, it was a no-brainer that you have to bowl first because dew will kick in towards the end, and that will make things bad. But now it will add another variable factor to that decision. That's number one. Then this rule is not a mandate. It is up to the umpire's discretion for each and every game. So that's where a lot of subjectivity comes into place. Already in our sport, we are dealing with a lot of subjectivity. And like the umpire's call is the biggest example of that. So adding on another layer to it, wherein you are leaving the decision solely to the umpire, the poor guys have already been taking a lot of heat from fans all across just because they give a certain player out and it turns out umpire's call. So it's just going to probably increase the amount of hate they would get in certain cases, allowing certain teams for a new ball, not allowing certain teams because the eye sees what it wants to, right? If I am a fan of a certain team who has not been allowed a new ball in a certain game, but my opposition has been allowed the new ball in another game, I might say that hey, the dew was much more on that day. You could literally see the ball becoming a bar of soap, but on the day where it was allowed, there was no dew at all. So all those fan arguments will start up. So while it is a thought in the right direction to make sure that the competition between bat and ball is restored, and we do not see instances of 300 par very frequently in the tournament, which is highly expected this time as well. But yeah, it can pave the way for a lot of controversies with regards to the umpire's discretion on certain days and their decisions whether or not to allow the use of a second ball.
Yeah, it's going to be again a tricky one. Let's see how this pans out, because the moment subjectivity comes to the picture, as you rightly said, definitely makes things highly contentious, and a lot of teams might cry foul, if things don't go their way. And lastly, before we start off with CSK itself, now again, we'll see how the IPL will continue to implement the impact player rule. Now, Naman, again, this is a rule that I think fans and even players themselves have vocally spoken about, just being discarded, but the BCCI continues to, keep it in existence, although we don't see it in other leagues or even in international cricket, right? So again, now your thoughts on this rule and just the rationale behind why they probably want to continue it.
So, well, the impact player, the very first thing and the most important benefit that we have seen out of the impact player is that one additional Indian youngster is getting to play in the IPL team. Now, somebody like a Dhruv Jurel, he started off as an impact player. In that season, he was the very first impact player who actually made a positive impact for his franchise. So that way, it is pretty good for these youngsters who had always been on the fringes to get more opportunities. We can look at somebody like a Ramandeep Singh. Last season, he might not have started in the KKR 11, but since the option of impact player was there, he was utilized, and now he was one of the retentions for the franchise. Somebody like a Sandeep Sharma, we can say that, a proper bowler, you do not like keep him in the team probably for his feeling. I mean, I'm not criticizing his feeling, but we saw the drop he had in the last year. So yeah, sorry for that. But yeah, anyway, these kind of players, right? So you make sure that these players are playing for a longer period of time, and those who have been on the fringes, they get much more opportunity. So from that perspective, it is a good initiative. But again, the major issue with it, with regards to all rounders, you're not seeing these players who can bat and chip in with the ball bowling a lot many overs. Maybe in an alternative scenario, you would have seen a Yashasvi Jaiswal, a Nitish Rana, a Shivam Dubey bowling a lot many overs. But currently, because of impact, since you can afford to have 5 out-and-out bowlers in your 12, it is not being done. And that is where it can create a negative impact on the international stage for the Indian team. Now, somebody like a Nitish Kumar Reddy, he is touted to be a proper out-and-out all-rounder who will give you overs, who can potentially give you 7-8 overs in an ODI, give you 4 overs in a T20, and bowl 10 to 12 overs in a day in a test match. That is what you expect out of him. But it will be to be seen whether he does that in the IPL on a consistent basis or not. So this is where it becomes an issue, where players who can do both the things, are they being utilized properly or not? And then again, there are those considerations that it is not being used as an impact player. It is actually being used to make sure that there are 12 players playing on the ground. There are 12 people in a team instead of 11 for a game. That is one factor. And another thing is, like, right when the rule was introduced, I had this very thought that maybe the impact player or the playing 11 should be named after the toss, so that teams can decide basis whether they're batting first or they're bowling first. I thought that should have been the way back then. However, now that the rule has been in place over the years, and it has been evident that if teams are batting first, they're going with 8 batters and maybe just 3 or 4 bowlers, and the other way around when they're bowling first. Maybe, if anything has to be tweaked, that is the only thing, that you name 111, batting 11, bowling 11, whatever it is, you name 111, and then whoever you want to bring as an impact player, you do. Now, that will make things slightly more difficult for the team to choose their starting 11, and then the impact player will actually be an impact player and not just a 12th player for them to utilize. So it is like, I think there are both sides to this tale. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. It definitely adds more to the entertainment of the game. And well, it is there, so it is there. I feel like I do not hate it entirely, I do not love it entirely. I accept it for the way it is for now.
Honestly, yeah, that's such an interesting take on this impact player rule, because you see such polarized opinions on this one, and fans absolutely hating on it, the other section loving it because of the kind of stars it has given us. But again, can't say if this is the last season we're going to see it, or is there going to be continued discussion on it. But yeah, Naman, let's probably get started with our teams. And first up is Chennai Super Kings. I'm not sure why I chose Chennai Super Kings first, but probably because, I think it was your pick, Naman. But again, your first thoughts on the squad itself, right? I mean, Ruturaj Gaikwad leading the squad. We have a very famous uncapped player in MS Dhoni in the ranks as well, who has, very interestingly delivered, just like one last season or something on those lines, with that whole Morse code thing. The internet went crazy about it. But yeah, let's first get your impressions on CSK itself.
Yeah. So about the choice of the team, I mean, I don't know whether that is why I was randomly writing some names, and maybe subconsciously it could be because it might be my next home. This is the job that I've got now. It is the headquarters of my company, so it might be where I'm headed next. But yeah, nothing's certain yet. But again, coming back to the team, again, typical CSK squad that you would see, filled with loads and loads and loads of all rounders. All those degrees of freedom that MS has always utilized throughout his tenure as a CSK captain, it has all those makings. It has those senior guys in the team who have probably not been in the reckoning for most franchises, but again, it's CSK. They're like, come home, come to us. You see the likes of Vijay Shankar, you see the likes of Deepak Hooda, you see the likes of Rahul Tripathi. All these have done well in bits and pieces, but then they have not really delivered performances where they've established themselves for any franchise. And now they're back to CSK, and won't be a surprise if they end up having the kind of season that an Ajinkya Rahane had for them 2 years back. So it has all the makings of a CSK, of a typical CSK team. It has the overseas opener that they love. It has the spinners that they love there at Chapok. It has a, a good, it has a decent, I would say, a decent mix of pace bowling as well. You do not see one batsman there in the pace attack who will threaten anyone. But we've seen what CSK has achieved with bowling lineups of the likes of Mukesh Chaudhary, Tushar Deshpande, Simarjeet Singh, and so on and so forth. So can never really say that they are thin in that department altogether. You may never know, one of these may end up being in the reckoning for the purple cap as well. So all in all, good spin attack, decent, good enough batting, slightly thin on the pace department, but we know the guy. Even if he's not the captain on paper, on the field, we all see how things are like.
Yeah, I mean, truer words couldn't have been spoken, and I think all the CSK fans probably watching the stream will absolutely love you for saying that statement, because they really were vouching for Dhoni to come back as captain. But with a futuristic perspective, they have chosen Ruturaj as well. And talking again about the spin bowling attack itself, right? I mean, we've seen how CSK has had that sort of a mindset to pick it based on the Chennai conditions itself. So, how much of an advantage, will CSK's home ground familiarity provide with them throughout the season? And yeah, like how would you just rate the attack at large?
Well, spin, I believe it's the best attack in the tournament because you have Ashwin and Jadeja. They both have played at Chepauk more than anybody in the IPL would have. Ashwin coming back to Chennai is huge. It is huge indeed because he's done with his international career now. He's been doing his YouTubing like he was born to do it, and he's back at home. I mean, for him, it would just be getting up and just thinking ways to get each batsman out. We know how much he thinks. Harsha Bhogle, like he says, he's a scientist when it comes to spin bowling. So him coming back to Chennai is a huge thing. Jadeja has been there, of course, and then Noor Ahmed. Now that is the exciting thing for me because that just changes the entire complexion of their attack. These 12 overs in the middle can be a nightmare for any opposition. Noor has shown great signs while being there at Gujarat. Him and Rashid bowling together in tandem was the way they used to strangle the opposition was very defining for Gujarat. Although in the previous season they did not go on to win, but Noor has been a great positive for them throughout. And under MS Dhoni, like not under his captaincy, but with him behind the stumps, he knows the angles from which to bowl Noor. He knows how to guide him to bowl further. So it is an impeccable spin attack. And apart from these three, who others do they have there? They have a Rachin Ravindra who can chip in with a few overs if he's there in the 11. If Deepak Hooda is playing, he can also chip in with a few overs. So they have a Shreyas Gopal in the squad there as well if in case something happens to Ashwin and if they need to bring him in. And the variety. Ashwin is your off break. I mean, he bowls everything, but he's an off break. You have Jadeja who bowls left arm spin. Then you have Noor Ahmed who is left arm Chinaman. And Shreyas Gopal can give you leg breaks as well. So he can really move around his spinners, bases the opposition. And those 7 games at Chennai with that spin attack is going to define the season for Chennai throughout. And as Ujjwal mentions, if the pitches are in their control, they are well on the way to win those 6 7 games. If they are making the spinning tracks, because they have the kind of batting that can negotiate that sort of bowling.
Yeah, and I was actually going to get to this point, but Ujjwal, brought it up in the comments itself that he thinks that Shankar and Huda will be used in a similar way they used Dubey in 2020, middle overs slogger. But yeah, Naman, just adding on to this question as well, just looking at CSK's middle order's collective strength, right, looks slightly untested. I mean, you have all the heavyweights right up top. So again, how do you think CSK is going to, counter this? And you're still confident about how the team is building up?
So about the middle order, I think a lot will depend on two factors. One is, how is Dhoni looking? Is he still gonna be that 8 ball, 10 ball batter who will come and slog at the end, hit those 3 4 6s and make the fans go crazy? Is that the Dhoni that's going to turn up? Or after his surgery last year, is he now back in the reckoning to bat at 5 down, even if it is in the 13th over? So that is going to define a lot about how they are shaping up their middle order. And second factor is, who are they opening with? Who is their first choice opener? In my opinion, it should be Devon Conway without a doubt. He has done amazingly well. He knows the ground. He has played in those conditions, and though he has not been in the best of forms in recent times, but he's that kind of a guy who can find form easily across format. He has that sort of class. So if they're starting with Conway, then you have to fit Rachin at 3 or he doesn't play. So if they are playing both Conway and Rachin together, and they are gonna play a they're gonna play a Patirana there for sure, and they might want to play Noor Ahmed as well. So that would make you 4 foreigners if that is how you're going. In that case, you would have a Sam Curran sitting on the bench. You would have a Nathan Ellis sitting on the bench. So it all comes down to who do they want to play. If they are playing Rachin at 3, they're not going to utilize an overseas pacer, or they're not going to play Noor Ahmed. If they're not playing Rachin there, then you have options at number 3. You can have somebody like a Rahul Tripathi, you can have somebody like a Deepak Hooda, and there's a Vijay Shankar over there as well. So this is how the makeup of the middle order can look like. I really like Rahul Tripathi. He's a busy player. He can play both spin and pace well. Deepak Hooda has had, both of them have had a roller coaster of a journey in recent times. They got their chances for India, did decently well in a few games, but just tipped off and lost their space to the youngsters that have come off late. So it is really a big point to prove for them. If they are going with the middle order that has all three of Deepak Hooda, Rahul Tripathi, and Vijay Shankar, then it is going to be a very big uncertainty. I do not think all three of them are going to play, because Jadeja will probably bat at 6. I see two of them playing and Shivam Dube fitting over there in 4 or 5 for the middle overs. So that is how I see it shaping up. However, like, it will all depend on how well the openers are giving them a start. If the two openers, in my consideration, Conway and Gaikwad, are giving them the kind of starts that Faf and Gaikwad gave them back in 21 when they had a championship season, then things are going to look very good for them. And a lot will depend on the kind of power play those two will have. If they are going to have a power play of 70 for no loss or 60 for no loss, it's really going to make things much easier for the guys to follow. And then they can possibly even consider sending Shivam Dube up at 3 or up at 4 itself.
And yeah, Naman, I think it's fair for me to also kind of ask you, like, what does your playing 11, in fact, the playing 12 look like, because of this whole impact player rule being there? Because, I mean, you did mention, like, briefly as to what your combination looks like, but let's probably just hear it out once. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would go with Conway and Gaikwad at the top, and Rachin at 3 is a possibility, but I want to play Ellis down there. Is why I would not consider playing him. Ellis is a very underrated bowler. The kind of overs he has bowled for Punjab in the recent times, I've seen most of him in IPL itself, and little bit for Australia. He is a very underrated bowler. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and with his slower ones and the kind of versatility he has, he can really do well on that Chennai deck. So I would want to play him. So I would go with Conway and Gaikwad at the top. At number 3, I would have Rahul Tripathi. Number 4 would be one of Vijay Shankar or Deepak Hooda. And then you've got a Shivam Dube at 5, you've got Jadeja at 6. Then you can have Ashwin down there at 7. Then in your bowling, you will have Patirana, Ellis, Noor. That's been 4 foreigners so far, right? Patirana, Ellis, Noor, and Conway. and then you will have the option of even playing. Yeah, so I think all three of them can actually fit. You can have Tripathi at 3, Huda at 4, Dubey at 5, Shankar at 6, like that. Oh yeah, and Dhoni, of course Dhoni. Yeah, so that is how it would look like. You have Tripathi at 3, Huda slash Shankar at 4, Dubey at 5, Jadeja 6, Dhoni 7. Then you have your three pacers in Patirana, Ellis, and Noor. Sorry, not Patirana and Ellis being the two pacers, Noor Ahmed, Ashwin. And then in your impact player, you can see bases the conditions and bases the situation in which they are in. They can probably get in an extra batter in form of Shankar or Huda, whoever is not playing. They can get in a Shreyas Gopal if one of the spinners is not going well. In the bowling as well, they have an Anshul Kamboj there on the bench, who has shown great signs for Mumbai Indians. He can come in there. And there's Nagar Koti, there's Mukesh Chaudhary. So they have plenty of options. They have Khalil Ahmed. Yeah, Khalil has shown great signs for Delhi in the recent times. So I would like he's probably the 12th guy who would make it in this sort of a condition. About Ujjwal talking about Karan being in the playing 12. I mean, it's a good chance for him to feature, but if he features, then probably Nathan Ennis will have to miss out. And to be honest, I see them having a good enough batting with this playing 11 or 12 that I mentioned. As long as Dhoni is batting at 7, this playing 11 that I mentioned seems pretty good, because the kind of variety that Ellis brings with the ball, he slightly edges Karan over there. So, which is why Ellis, Patirana, Noor, and Conway are going to be my 4. However, you can afford to leave out Noor Ahmed in certain conditions, and instead of him, you can bring in Sam Curran, or you can also bring in Rachin in some conditions if you want to strengthen your batting up there. So this is how the makeup is going to look like.
Yeah, and I think Ujjwal also just goes on to add that he thinks, Ellis might not be a regular because, he looks like a backup for Pathirana. And he adds one more point that, yeah, Sam Curran was pretty good during ILT20, both with the bat and ball. And that's where, the temptation to kind of include him in that playing 12 might happen. But all in all, yeah, I mean, just looking at the composition of CSK, I mean, they look so formidable, right? You have so many options just warming the bench. I mean, seeing Anshul Kamboj on the bench is just absolutely criminal, considering the kind of season he's had for Mumbai domestically as well. But
I know.
interesting times, nonetheless, for CSK.
And
And
that's what's
before we,
good for the team. The fact that you
Hmm.
can have a playing 11 or a 12 with players like Sam Curran and Rachin Ravindra on the bench, it speaks for the kind of depth they have in their pool, especially with the overseas talent. So yeah, basis the conditions, basis how everybody is doing, basis how the structure of the team is coming up, they can decide. It's very tempting to play Curran, but I love what Ellis has to offer, and I want to see more of him on those Chennai decks.
yeah, fingers crossed. Let's see if that happens. And before we move on to Punjab Kings as well, Naman, I'll probably just get your prediction on where Chennai Super Kings will end up. Right? I mean, we've spoken so highly of the kind of squad they've built, the playing 12, looking so formidable and everything. But if you had an early prediction to make, what would that look like?
Before that, just one more thing to add on. I think we haven't spoken much about it. This is going to be a defining season for the career of Ruturaj Gaikwad. It is going to be a defining season. It was his first season as the full-time captain the previous time. Now it is his team after the auction. In the recent times, he hasn't really been in favor for the Indian setup. He's been in and out. He's had some injuries. All that has happened. There are people who have probably jumped ahead of him in the queue to make it to the opening spot in ODIs, and in the A20s, he's really not there in consideration. In tests, he's in and around, but hasn't really. He's still knocking on the door. He's not broken it down yet. So it is really going to be a defining season for him, and he has got to have the kind of season he had back in 21. If he goes on to have a 500 600 run season, which he definitely has the capability to, and he must strive to have that, he needs to show it to the world. If not the world, show it to him, prove it to himself that yes, Dhoni is there as the leading figure, but he is the captain and he is the lead batter. He is the lead Indian batter in that unit. So he's like recently in that T20, the 100 he made, he started off at such a slow rate, and then the way he accelerated and went on to get to the 100, that is the potential that he brings. He's just got to convert it. And if he goes on to have that kind of a season, if him and Conway give the kind of starts that are expected of them, and the spin troika of Ashwin, Jadeja, and Noor weave their web back in Chepauk, I definitely see them qualifying for the playoffs. I mean, they are definitely are one of my teams for the playoffs. And if they are winning around 6 games at Chepauk, then maybe in the top two. So I'm quite bullish on them, given these few factors that I've mentioned are set in play.
That's very interesting, Naman. I think so far we've gotten that one prediction that CSK is making it to the playoffs from you. Let's see who are your other three picks. And I think through the course of our discussion, we will figure that out. But that's about Chennai Super Kings. And let's talk about the other Kings, Punjab Kings, who I think had such an interesting auction again. I mean, they kind of pressed the reset button. They just retained like two players and then, kind of build their squad around them, splurged so much money on Shreyas Iyer and everything. Again, Naman, I'll open it to you with your thoughts on the makeup of the squad. Again, did you think their auction had a lot of misses, but all in all, it's looking somewhat decent-ish?
Definitely. So, well, first of all, the big thing over here is Ponting and Iyer are back together. And we've seen the kind of seasons they had for Delhi back in 2020 and 2019. Like, those are the best years that Delhi Capitals, Delhi Daredevils have ever had in their history, in my opinion. They made a great combo. Iyer was just new to the captaincy, and the way he did under Ponting, it was really immense. And that is the time where Iyer started to grow as an individual, and as even his batting started improving by leaps and bounds in order to make a proper case for the national side. So that combination, I believe, is something that should be able to bring a breath of fresh air to the Punjab unit. We've seen how they have changed their captains and coaches so many times in the past. I really hope this one is there to stay for some time. I really hope that the franchise owners let Ponting and Ayer take the calls on the field and off the field. Just leave them be for a year and see how in which direction they are taking the team ahead. So that is going to be very crucial. As long as it has to be Ponting's team, and obviously Ayer being the captain, but it has to be left to the two of them to take the team in a direction. So that's about it. And about the team, I believe they had a pretty good auction. They managed to get back Arshdeep Singh at the price they would have probably retained him. So like no win, no profit, no loss in a way. They managed to get Uzi, which is a great buy for those conditions. I mean, I think this year again they are playing in Mullanpur and not in Mohali. If it was in Mohali itself, then with long boundaries, it would have really suited Uzi. But even in conditions like Mullanpur, he would be pretty good. They've, of course, it's Ricky Ponting is the coach, so they have a good Aussie. So there are a good number of Aussie players in the squad over there, and I believe probably out of four, three of their overseas players are gonna be Aussies in the 11. And with regards to the overall structure, I think they have a good mix of youth and experience over there, and they are backing on the youngsters or the newcomers to the stage big time. People like Prab Simran, people like Shashank, they've really got to deliver big time in order for them to make it big in the season. And just like any team or any franchise he ever plays for, Maxwell is really going to decide their fate. How well he goes. Does he have a Maxwell of 2020 Punjab season, or does he have a Maxwell of 2014 Punjab season? Those things are really going to be critical. Like they have a love-hate relationship. Maxwell in Punjab keeps going, coming back, keeps going, coming back. So these are a few critical factors, and of course the captain Shreyas. I have immense affection for him as a player. He has great leadership abilities. He is the title-winning captain from the last year. He's been doing great in the national circuit, especially in the ODIs for the recent times, and really, really, really looking forward to the way he guides the team further. And basis all of this, I believe Punjab are my dark horses for the season. I would not. Yeah, we'll come to it later, but they are my dark horses. People might not be rating them very highly throughout, but I really see if a certain things fall into place, they can really make a strong case in the season.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I was, jumping the gun by saying they had a very decent-ish auction. Because just have a look at their squad, man. They have like 8 all-rounders, provides immense flexibility as well. So again, Aman, how do you think PBKS is actually going to use this depth to a strategic advantage, right? I mean, you're led by Shreyas Iyer, you have Ricky Ponting there, in the backroom staff, so they can actually build a good playing 12. So yeah, your thoughts on this one?
Well, they have quite a few scenarios over there. So I believe Prab Simran is definitely going to open. There's no doubt about that. Now the other opener, they have multiple options. they can decide to send Josh Inglis up to open, and then you can have Shreyas at 3, you can have Maxwell at 4, you can slot in somebody like a Shashank in there at 5, and then a Stoinis, sorry, not Stoinis. Yeah, who else is there? Was it no? Yeah, it's Stoinis. Yeah, it is Stoinis. Just get confused between Marsh and Stoinis a bit for this season. They can have Stoinis coming in there. Now, that can be one way that they can go about the top 6. The other alternatively can be with them, opening with Stoinis. Now he has done that in the BBL. He has done that slightly in the IPL, playing in the top 3, and I would love to see Stoinis in the top at the top. But the only issue that creates over there is that Maxwell has flourished when he has had others to follow him. That is where he has been at his best, that we have seen in RCB in recent times, when he had AB to follow, when he had DK to follow, and even back at Punjab. When he was batting there at 3 and 4, he still had Miller to follow, which is why he could unleash himself and be the way. Like we remember the Maxwell Miller partnerships back in the 2014 season. So it's like these are both the options that they can consider. They can even consider opening with Stoinis and English. They can even open with Stoinis and Prabhsimran, and then maybe Prabhsimran can bat at 3 if Stoinis and English are opening. Iyer can be at 4, but Iyer wants to bat at 3. So they have a few options over there. In my opinion, since they have the Maxwell factor in the team, I would go ahead and open with Prabhsimran and English. Then you can have Iyer at 3, Maxwell probably coming in at 4, Shashank slotting in at 5, and 6. There is Stoinis 5 and 6 can be Shashank and Stoinis based on the situation. They have Suryan Shedge in the setup, who has been doing amazingly well in the domestic circuit of late. So he can be their impact player candidate, or he can slot in the team itself at 7. And then when it comes to their bowling, so obviously Harpreet Brar will find a way. Yuzi Chahal is going to play. Arshdeep is going to play. And in the other paces, they have options in Kuldeep Singh, Vaishak, and Yash Thakur. So this is where they also have somebody like a Jansen in their setup. So if they are if their 4 overseas players can basically be English, they can have Stoinis, Maxwell, and Jansen. Alternatively, now Ferguson is, again, he's doing Ferguson things. He's probably not available once again. So over there, the role of somebody like a Jansen becomes extremely critical, and he will have to play a big role in their setup. So a lot of their structure will depend on how do they want to deal with Stoinis. Do they want to make an open? Do they want to bat him in the middle? And that way, they have another promising youngster in Priyan Sharya. He has been doing pretty well in the recent times in the domestic circuit. He can also come into the setup in the top 3, and he can probably be a backup in case anybody is out injured, or he can even start in the 11. Harsha Bhogle had him in his 11 as the other opener, so that also speaks that okay, he has something to show. And they also have somebody like a Nehal Vadera, who has done amazingly well for Mumbai in the recent times. In the backup options for overseas, they have Aaron Hardy, they have Azmatullah Omarzai, who have the potential to probably start in any other league in any other team. So, and in the Indian batters, they also have a Vishnu Vinod, who has won a game for Mumbai in the past couple of seasons. So they have a very good mix of players. For the backups, they have good backups for each player in their ranks. So, like, on one part, while it is a good thing to have these many players, on the other hand, it also gives them a lot of headaches with regards to what is the combination they should start off with. Like even right now, while just discussing it, there were so many options in my mind that I can think of, and ultimately it will be down to the coach and the captain and the punt that they're going to take on who starts and who bats where. So lots of options, but they need to start with an 11, and they really need to back it for at least 6-7 games, and just leave it to the captain out in the field and see the results that he'll bring. And I'm sure he'll bring good results on that.
Fair enough, Naman. And I think Ujjwal also goes on to echo a similar sentiment that, Ponting's people management will decide Punjab's future, looking at their past and all the things that have transpired. I mean, they've done a great job at the auction. It's just about, putting that right, playing 11 or playing 12, as we keep mentioning. But even just, briefly looking at their strengths and weaknesses, Naman, you did talk about the strengths and, the presence of so many options and, youngsters. There's a good blend of like overseas players as well. But just a quick look at the weaknesses and things that might come, kind of bite them back, and that could be concerning as well.
Definitely. So, like, just in their first 11 itself, we can see players like Prabhsimran, we can see players like Shashank. we can see somebody like a Harpreet Brar and the other Indian quick, whoever they pick, apart from Arshdeep. So these three, four names are not the ones who are going to induce fear in the minds of the opposition. I mean, if Ashdeep and Jansen are going to give a good start, if in case somebody like Kuldeep, Vijay Kumar, or Yash Thakur is coming as a change-up pacer, or if Harpreet Brar is coming as the other spinner against Chahal, then those 6 to 8 overs are going to be periods wherein the opposition might look to cash in. So that is where, if things do not go very well, they can be put under a bit of pressure. And we have seen even Chahal in the recent past, he's probably past his, like, not in IPL he's been doing great, but he's we can it's fair to say that he's probably past his peak now. So he can also be put under pressure and he can easily be scored off in certain conditions as well. So these are places where they can be put under a bit of pressure, and in situations where they happen to lose their top order within the power play, if they lose 2 or 3 wickets early in the power play, I do not see many people in the middle order who can really pull off a rescue act. I mean, definitely they have the rescue man Shashank in their ranks, but that was just the first season. We do not, but he did it amazingly well. So let's see if he still has that in him to be the rescue man in those conditions. And which is where I believe the role of Iyer at number 3 is going to be absolutely critical. The way he has shown for India being at number 4, scoring at a high strike rate when the going has been easy and absorbing the pressure when the going has been tough. So he has really got to assess the situations pretty well, and he has got to be there at the crease till the very end and score at the rate that's required for the conditions and for the game. So he is his captaincy and his batting both are going to be absolutely critical in deciding the fate of this franchise, and definitely the bowling, like likes of Arshdeep and Yuzi are probably two of the best, the top two wicket takers for India in T20 eyes at this point of time, and they have both of them in their ranks along with people like Marco Jansen. Who so I mean, it can have the fate of any Punjab team that we have seen in the past, but this time, just because of the people who are there at the helm, I see I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to the playoffs, and that's why they are my dark horses for the season.
Interesting, Naman. And before, I kind of move on to my next team as well. I think just today we got the news. I don't know if it's a report or like Shreyas had actually said this, but he's kind of showing an inclination to play at that number 3 spot, right? What did you make of it? Because for the longest time, we've seen him play at number 4 for India. Even when he was playing for KKR, we saw him come in at latter spots. But at number 3, it could be a massive responsibility for him as the captain to lead the team from the front.
So, like, ever since we can recall, Iyer started his IPL career opening for Delhi. He was opening with Mayank Agarwal in one of those seasons under Zahir Khan's captaincy. Then, most of his IPL career, he has batted at number 3. During those golden years at Delhi as well, he used to bat at 3 with Dhawan and Shaw opening, and Pant would come in at 4. So, we've probably we probably remember him at number 4 because of the achievements he's had with India in ODIs at number 4. But even his great knocks in T20s for India have been there at number 3. I remember this one series against Sri Lanka back in 2022, early 2022, where he was the player of the series there, and he was batting at number 3 and scoring immensely well. Even in ODIs, in 22 itself, when we had gone to West Indies, Kohli did not travel and he was batting at number 3 in ODIs and he was doing amazingly well. His preferred spot has always been at number 3. At KKR, we saw him batting at number 4 because you had a Narayan at the top. And you had guys like Venki Iyer, you had guys like Nitish Rana, you had somebody like an Ankush Raghuvanshi, who they would have liked to bat there at number 3. Which is why he used to come down, and there was Gambhir at the helm. And he likes to move things around as per the situation, and he's got pretty good results over there with that as well. But now, in this kind of a setup, I believe it is critical that he bats at number 3. And even in my opinion, the best spot for him across both the formats and limited overs is at number 3. With India, he's had great success at number 4, and because you have somebody like Virat at 3, he is your perfect fit for number 4. But in T20s, he's got to play at number 3.
Fair enough, and I hope Shreyas Iyer goes on to have that sort of a season, because somewhere when you come in with that sort of a price tag pressure as well, right? Things could really backfire, and he's playing at a new franchise. So let's see how things play out for him. And even on the prediction side, Naman, I think in this conversation itself, you mentioned Punjab are your dark horses. So would you again stick to that itself? Based on the discussion now we have had, and do you think Punjab has it in them to kind of go all the way? You just want to give the season time and then see where things eventually end up going?
So I'm a bit 50-50 on them. They are my dark horses, but I mean, it's the first season of this setup. This is the first, and they've had a clean slate to build with as well. So a lot would depend on how the unit galvanizes all together, how things set in play. So that's the thing. With this 11, the upside is pretty high, but the downside can be pretty bad as well. So I have them as my dark horses. They can qualify. Whether they are in my top four at this point of time, let's come to that when we are at the end of the two series. I'll myself after discussing, I'll probably have a better picture because they have it in them, but so do the other eight teams that we are yet to discuss. So let's come to that towards the end. Like they
Yeah.
are somewhere there. They have the chance, but I'm not very bullish on them as of now.
Fair enough. I mean, I think as the season progresses, we'll be in a much better position to kind of make a judgment because we still have eight more exciting teams to talk about, through the course of today and tomorrow. But that brings me to Gujarat Titans. Again, a team, that started off their IPL on such a beautiful note when they were, introduced into the setup. But somewhere in 2024, they kind of lost track. Shubman Gill was, struggling with his captaincy and the team and all of that. But this time around, Naman, what did you make of the squad, the kind of purchases that they made at the auction? Again, giving you signs of a very strong Gujarat Titans setup.
Well, definitely. They've tried to recreate the kind of unit they had back in 22, especially with the kind of bowling attack that they've built. They've probably lost Shami to the auction, but they've brought in people like Siraj and Prasid back at the team. They've got somebody like a Rabada who has been pretty consistent, although hasn't had those peaks that he had during his time at Delhi. So they've had a pretty good auction. They have built together a very balanced team once again. When you look at it, you wouldn't see, stars all across the 11, but you'll see very value driven bias. Players who bring a lot of value to the table. Somebody like a Washington Sundar, somebody like a Glenn Phillips. These two were absolute steals at the auction. I mean, if like in our group itself, when the auction was going on, since day one, I was like Glenn Phillips to Gujarat, Glenn Phillips to Gujarat, because he was the guy they needed there in their middle order. So they've made a pretty balanced. They've picked a good squad, and they can pick a very balanced 11 or 12. And yeah, I think they assembled a pretty good unit altogether.
Fair enough. I mean, let's just probably talk about the world-class bowling unit, right? You have the likes of Kagiso Rabada, you have Gerald Coetzee, you have Siraj. I think a lot of RCB fans would just probably tune out of the stream because of that. And Rashid Khan as well, right? I mean, these are such good purchases. Naman, your thoughts on how this bowling unit is shaping up, and even the kind of alternatives they have on the bench, just making for great reading, no?
Yeah, definitely. But the only thing with this bowling attack is I cannot see any pacer who can do the controlling job for them. All their pacers are ones who can really travel for runs. So in batting friendly conditions, especially in against oppositions like Sunrisers, their bowling is one that can really be put under pressure right from the word go. Although you have those 4 overs of Rashid, which are probably very difficult to get runs out of, but we've seen even Rashid has travelled in the past season or two. So they have a good pedigreed bowling attack, but these are like all of the players. I believe when you look at them, you would say that T20 is not their strongest format for all the pacers. Be it Siraj, be it Prasid, be it Rabada, be it Coetzee, be it Ishant Sharma. T20 is not their strongest format, although they have done well. They've shown good glimpses in this format altogether. They have a pedigreed bowling attack. However, they can definitely travel for runs, and which is where the power play will be very crucial for them. And yes, exactly how Achal mentions, at the death, you cannot see one out and out death bowler over there. Rabada used to bowl in the death at times in Delhi, but even his stocks in T20s have dipped off late. Coetzee is again dealing with injury issues. We do not know how well he's going to show up. He's their Andrek Nokia all over again. He's that guy. Like they've got Nokia was there in Delhi, so he's like because I saw Rabada there and Coetzee there just brought those rings back. So he can be the commodity that Nokia was for Delhi, and he can also travel for runs at times. So it's very critical that they have a good power play and they get those 2-3 wickets up at the front because we see with Siraj, if he is hit for runs early on, his lines and lengths go they do not remain consistent. So that's one part about the pace bowling. And spin, they have very good options. They have Rashid Khan, of course. and they have Washi. And if in case something happens to Washi, if his fitness is under threat, then they can have somebody like a Jayant Yadav, they can have somebody like a Sai Kishore who can come in his place. The spin looks good. Their pace is decent, but it depends on what kind of a pace attack shows up in the season. And injury threats also loom over somebody like Prasidh Krishna. His backup they have in Ishant Sharma, but even he has not been the fittest in recent times. So that third pacer could also give them a few headaches if in case there are fitness issues that come up with them. And if it does, they have somebody like an Arshad Khan in their ranks who has also shown good glimpses. But then again, it doesn't induce the kind of confidence in the side, and it won't induce the kind of fear in the opposition that you would want to.
Fair enough. And I think this was a question that I should probably ask you. Ujjwal brings it up that I hope they use Sundar's batting talent sensibly. He has been mishandled by former franchisees. Again, Naman, where does Washington Sundar, fit into this playing level? I mean, unlike SRH, you will see him, get games here, and where do you want him to bat?
Right. So Washi, like I believe he will slot in as a floater at around 5 or 6 in my playing 11. The top four are pretty much straightforward, but after that it depends on how the match is progressing further. Because in their middle order they have candidates like Shah Rukh Khan, Washington Sundar, Rahul Tripathi, and Rashid Khan, going slightly to the lower middle order as well. So these four guys are going to come in basis the situation. Maybe if there are 2 or 3 overs left, then maybe you could send somebody like a Shah Rukh Khan or a Rahul Tripathi or Rashid Khan in. Washi is somebody who would come in at 5 if you are 10 or 12 overs into the game, or maybe in 14th over of the game. He can come in, absorb the pressure, and hit the bowlers eventually as well. So he will be my floater. I do not think he will have a fixed batting position even here. But if I have to designate him a position, it would be at 5. But then again, the people below him can come up, as we see with most T20 sides in the world. That though a person who is designated to come in at 5, he probably goes down the order if the team has had a good start and if wickets fall pretty late. So that is how I see him. He should be handled sensibly. They should not designate him to the lower order because he is the guy who can fill in that one spot in the middle order along with somebody like a Glenn Phillips. So that's that. I see him the way Mumbai Indians utilize Krunal Pandya. When they had wickets falling early, he would come in at 4 or 5, and if it were going well, then Pandya and Pollard would come in above him, and then he would come in at the bottom. That's the role in the batting that I see Sundar play.
Fingers crossed. I hope he gets a lot of the games because I don't know who mentioned this that because of the impact player rule, they really felt players like Washington Sundar were just not getting opportunities, which was absolutely criminal. But again, I mean, just probably looking at the top three as well. You have the likes of Shubman Gill, Joss Butler, and Sai Sudarshan. I mean, this doesn't give you the vibe of a very aggressive top three, right? Which invariably ends up putting a lot of pressure on that middle order as well. So in high scoring games and matches where they are batting first, you need those massive totals. I mean, these are technically solid batters, but the aggressive starts and the kind of the T20 format itself demands them to be aggressive, right? Do you see that happening from these three?
See, I don't know why people are not remembering the aggression that Butler has shown in his opening career so far. Off late, his stocks have dipped a bit because of all the nuisance that has been going on back at England. I mean, the England captaincy and the overall English setup can be so. I mean, it can really mess any player's mind up. The way the team and everything is going on there. But again, when Butler comes to the IPL, he has shown it. Like I remember a game back in 2022 where he scored a 60 or a 70 ball 100 in difficult conditions. I can't remember the opposition. And so he's that kind of a guy. He can score those hard earned runs and he can also go boom boom at the top. So he is that aggressive guy in their top three. And by default, he has to be the one. So the only issue here is all the three in their top three are people who are better suited if they are opening the batting. And Gill is your captain, and Butler is your pedigreed veteran opener. So naturally, the two of them should open. But even Sai Sudarshan, he is the class. He is the class left-hander guy. I mean, when you see him hit the ball through the covers, you are like, yes, that is a shot of a classical left-handed opener. So if they can, however they manage their top three, I believe if they can find a way to make Sai Sudarshan open, and if like it's a big call, if at all Gill is ready to bat at 3, that would be a very big call for them to make. If they end up doing that, they can have Sai Sudarshan open. He can take his time. He can really squeeze in the runs in the power play, and Butler can go boom boom, and then Gill can really control the entire batting, and he's the captain. So he has got to take the additional responsibility on his shoulders. So again, the top three can be either way. They can decide anyhow they want to structure them basis every player's where they want to bat. Knowing Gill, I don't think he would want to move to number 3 because, like Ujjwal mentioned, he has his eyes set on the T20 World Cup squad next year, and he's already not there among the top 3 contenders for the opener spot right now. You have somebody like Samson, you have Jaiswal, and you have Abhishek Sharma. These three are probably above him right now when it comes to the pecking order. And you'll also have people like Rishabh Pant who will be making a stronger case to be there in that squad in the top 3. So it's crucial for Gill. So I don't see him moving down. Then it's just between Sudarshan and Butler who do the slot where. So that's the top 3. It is not the most aggressive looking on paper, but it has class. It has pure class written all over it. And they might not be a top 3 that will give you 100, 120 runs in a power play, but it is a top 3 when in song will give you 70, 80 run power plays consistently well. It has that potential. So pretty good opening combo there. And as we move on further, let's just keep discussing the batting order. I see Glenn Phillips in at 4. Exactly, Ujjwal. Okay, he'll start. Yeah. About Rutherford, okay, he's been consistent. But see, I do not know why Glenn Phillips is not rated. He is such a gun fielder. He is very smart with his bowling. He has a test fifer in recent times, and his batting really hasn't been given the kind of opportunities in this league that he has deserved. I mean, I think a season or two ago when he hit that 8 ball 20 something for Hyderabad and finished the game for them, I mean, he is that kind of a player. Why don't you just let him play, and give him some more time to bat? So even there, do they want him as their proper number 4 in the middle orders who can negotiate through tricky conditions and then go big at the end, or do they see him as somebody who would come in later and just start smashing right from the go? If they see him as the guy who knocks a few balls around and then gets going, then he bats at 4. If he's somebody who they want to come in after 10 or 12 overs and just start hitting, then he slots at 5, and you can have somebody like a Sundar in at 4. So which is where the floater thing comes into picture. If he's the one they want to come in late, then you slot Sundar at 4 and him at 5. And once that happens, then I believe number 6 onwards, you have people like Shah Rukh Khan, you have somebody like Rahul Tripathi, Rashid Khan, and then it goes so on and so forth. And they have somebody like a Mahipal Lomror as well, who can come in there if required as an impact sub. They have 2 wicket-keeping backup options in Kumar Kushagra and Anuj Rawat. I mean, Rawat is the more tried and tested ones. RCB fans will definitely disagree. He has given them quite a lot of headaches. But yeah, he is the only other option they have there in the middle. So in terms of Indian batting backups, they do not have a lot. It's looking slightly thin on paper, and they've not been very tested players. This is how I see their entire batting middle to lower order progressing.
Fair enough, Naman. And probably, I'll also ask you your prediction on where Gujarat will end up, right? Again, it's going to be a slightly new look squad, but it still looks quite formidable. And it will be an important litmus test even for Shubman Gill's captaincy. A lot of people have had very mixed opinions about, the kind of captain he's been, right? I mean, last season was extremely difficult with, Hardik Pandya's departure and all of those factors playing in as well. But again, Naman, just throwing it open to you, your prediction on where Gujarat will end, and do they have it in there?
One critical factor for them will be the kind of decks they have in Ahmedabad. If they have absolute belters, if they have very good batting friendly conditions, then while on one hand they have good batting in those conditions, but they probably do not have the bowling that can defend those kind of totals. I mean, it really on paper looks like the kind of bowling attack an RCB would have had under Virat Kohli's captaincy. Those are the kind of bowlers they have. So I'm not very bullish on them. I believe a lot of things need to tick well for them to make it there. They will probably finish in the middle of the table somewhere. They won't be the ones finishing at the bottom. And yeah, I mean, I might be wrong here. GT has shown it time and again that with squads which haven't looked absolutely convincing, they have made it there. But I'm not very bullish on them as of now. I believe they'll finish somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, fair
GK
enough.
Sunil plays victim of betrayal. Siraj Butler Phillips. Okay.
Glenn
Yeah.
Phillips, who was criminally underutilized by a certain team that we will be talking about next. I think Ujjwal makes a great point here. A lot of players, coming in with a statement, and they would want to, kind of make a statement as well. But excited to see where Gujarat goes. I feel the makeup of the squad this time around looks much better than that 2024 side of things. So yeah, let's see how that goes. And it brings me to Sunrisers Hyderabad. They were the finalists of last year. They had quite the dream season, I'd say. I think they surpassed a lot of people's expectations, largely because of a lot of things that just worked out so well for them. I think, yeah, Naman has frozen a little bit for us there. Yeah, you're back on Naman. But again, Naman, let's get your thoughts on Sunrisers. And again, what do you just make of the squad, right? Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma are probably a discussion point for an entire podcast episode, not even just 5 minutes. But all in all, around them, the team just seems to be built so beautifully, right, at the auctions.
Yeah, I mean, see, when you look at that batting order, you just see an autobahn in Germany. You don't see anything else. You just see cars whooshing past you at sonic speed. That's the kind of batting lineup they have, and which is where the question comes in. Can they really do it consistently over 14 games once again? They showed it last season, they did it pretty well, but come the playoffs, they struggled. So, is this approach really going to be that sustainable throughout these 14 games across different conditions and through playoffs? Is the big question. They have the players who can do it. I was lucky enough to be there at Wankhede when Abhishek hit that 100, and I was so happy. I was so ecstatic over there. So they have those set of players, but then again, how sustainable are they going to be? Because you look at it, you see the way they have been batting in their practice simulations in Uppal. They are going hell for leather, man. They're not waiting for a single ball. They're just boom, 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 smash, smash, smash out of the park. Be it Abhishek, Travis, Ishan, Klassen, even Nitish Reddy to an extent. Abhinav Manohar is there to follow. This young lad Aniket Verma, I mean, he's been playing some cricket. He's been playing some shots, and that too sensibly. He's come in, he's managed a bit, and then he's managed situations, and he's also gone big. So a lot of it will depend how, if those players can really negotiate through tricky situations. That is going to be crucial. We know that Klassen has it in him to play through those situations pretty well. But with somebody like a Kishan, we've seen that he struggles against spin. And he is expected to bat at number three. So that is going to be slightly critical. How well can he negotiate? And apart from these, like apart from after Kishan at three, and you will probably have Klassen at five with Nitish coming in at four, and then Manohar and Aniket coming in at six, seven, and so on and so forth. Apart from these four big guns, how do the other three play? Those can be critical. If they are losing their openers early, if they are losing two of the top three early, how is the middle order negotiating through those situations is really going to be critical over there. So although they have power, they have loads of power, but again, we have seen the English team has a lot of power in the recent times as well. But when they do not explode, they implode. So this is that kind of a batting lineup. Either it will explode or it will implode. And now moving on further to their bowling. Can we get to their bowling now, or it's at a later point? Perfect, right? So with the bowling again, like they've let go of Bhuvi now, so they have tried to bring in another Indian pacer in the form of Shami. So they have Shami coming in there, and for the death overs, instead of Natarajan, now they have Harshal Patel. So they have tried to get like for like replacements for those roles that they have to fill in. They have Pat Cummins over there. In the spin department, they have the likes of Rahul Chahar and Adam Zampa in there. For backups, they have Simarjeet, Jaydev, and these players. So even the bowling, on paper, you can see which role is which bowler going to play. But even there, all the bowlers that they've had, we've seen Cummins fetch a few runs in recent past in T20. We've seen Harshal Patel, he can go for a lot of runs. Zampa is the critical person here. I believe Zampa, it's after Rashid Khan's departure, SRH really haven't had a quality spinner in the ranks for a bit of time. And I think that's where Zampa has to be critical. He has to feature in the 11 for them. He has to play consistently. I would want to play him even if he takes up an overseas spot, because you have a good Indian core in your side. You have good Indian bowling, you have good Indian batting. So I want Zampa to play, and his bowling in the middle overs will define how the opposition is going to score. And I wouldn't even mind if they play Rahul Chahar as the another spinner as the impact player over there. So in your overseas players, you can have a Travis Head, you can have Klassen, you can have Cummins, and you can have Zampa. These are the four overseas players you can have. Because the only other options you have in your ranks is somebody like a Kamindu Mendes, and you have Bryden Cars, and there is Ishan Malinga. So these are the three. So I see Zampa in the top four overseas players, but again, the bowling, it all of them really have to deliver their best. Not one of them can afford to have a slightly under par season because the decks that they are going to dish out at Uppal are going to be highways. And if their bowling can be put under pressure, then we've seen them concede runs in the previous season itself. That game against RCB, where DK Papago went on to score the runs that he did, like they can concede runs. So, like again, they will either explode or they will implode.
Yeah, and I think Achal also goes on to point out similarly that the 2024 final was probably that perfect example of them going implode or explode. But let's take Ujjwal's comment as well. This is about Abhinav Manohar. He goes on to say that of course the top five will have eyeballs, but Abhinav's role is so crucial. He needs to finish 3 to 4 games for this team to actually do wonders. I know, Naman, like through our conversation, raving about Sunrise, the kind of batting they have, the kind of decks they get, which are just literal roads. But someone like an Abhinav Manohar too, right? How excited are you to see him here? Because in Gujarat as well, we saw a few performances here and there. Domestically as well, he has shown that he has that sort of a capability. But in this very crowded batting lineup as well, Abhinav Manohar can make a mark this time around.
See, he's been around the IPL for the past 3-4 seasons now. He's not a new commodity. By now, he should have won at least one game every season for his franchise in order to really induce that confidence in his team and fear in the other teams. Something like Shashank did for Punjab last season consistently, he should have done as much in all these seasons throughout. He's blown hot and blown cold throughout his IPL career. In domestics, he's had a good run, but even there have been situations where he's probably not played the right kind of shot for the situation, or he's not executed that shot pretty well. So it's a big season for him. He's really got to make his mark in the IPL. He has his domestic reputation now, but in the IPL, an opposition bowler might not fear him when he's running into bowl. He'll be like, okay, he can hit me, but I can get him out as well if he doesn't execute the shot pretty well. So that way he has to have much more control over his power hitting. And of course, finishing those 3-4 games are absolutely critical because along with likes of Klassen, even Cummins to an extent, he can be their finisher. We know he has got a 14 ball 50 in the IPL. He hit Bumrah in for those many runs back in 2022. So Manohar is going to be critical, and like I said, he is one of those lads who will determine whether they are exploding or they are imploding. Because if they are losing 3 wickets at the top, then he is one guy who will probably come in the middle and negotiate a few tricky overs there. He has done pretty well in KPL, of course, but then like, we know the level. Like KPL domestic players, here you have international level players. So can he really do that consistently against these quality bowlers? Is the real question over here in picture. Lots of talent, lots of potential. We've been looking forward to him over the past few years. Achal and I, back when we were at college, we were very excited to see his domestic returns, and we were looking forward where he goes in the IPL. And but he hasn't really impressed at that stage as much as we would expect of him.
Fair point there, Naman. And I think Ujjwal's comment also says that good part is that they have 20 overs sorted for them. I'm not sure if he means this on the batting front, considering the enviable batting depth they have. But on the bowling side of things, things might look a little tricky for them, based on the conditions and this whole rule of, the new ball coming in. So let's see how that plays out. But Naman, again, let's probably get your playing 12 for SRH. You did briefly outline it for us, but again, just for the uninitiated, if you could give us your playing 12.
Definitely. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You have Travis and Abhishek at the top. You have Ishan coming in at 3. So those are your 3 left-handers at the top. And I don't know if they're playing at Chennai or not, but if they are, Ashwin has to bowl the first over, and he would be licking his lips, as Sunnyji always says. So yeah, sorry for the distraction from there. So that's the top 3. Then I would have Nitish coming in at 4. Let's see how he does. He's done that for India recently, and he's done that pretty well. Send in Nitish at 4, see what he gives you. Klassen coming in at 5. Then you can have Manohar at 6. And you can also have Aniket Verma coming in as the impact sub, coming in at number 7. So Manohar and Aniket would be there for me at 6 and 7. He's done amazingly well in the recent practice games, so I would like for them to unleash him. Even probably at number 6 ahead of Manohar, just to give the impetus with 20 runs in an over, 18 runs in an over, just over there. So that will be their top 6 with Aniket as the impact sub, the 7th batter. Then you would have Cummins, Harshal, Shami as your 3 quicks, and you can have Rahul Chahar and Adam Zampa. So I want to see both of them play. I want to see how they go because they might concede runs, but they can pick those wickets in the middle overs. And the kind of batting unit they have, they would not mind if the spinners would go for 40, 50 runs every match as long as they're picking 2 wickets apiece for them. So two of them, just let them be in the middle, have Cummins take over 1 or 2 overs in the middle there as well, and then just play around with their bowling changes. I think the bowling changes for the Pacers is going to be critical because we know that Shami is best utilized in the power play, Cummins in the middle overs, and Harshal at the death. So maybe you would probably want to squeeze 1 over out of Cummins or Abhishek Sharma in the power play. Then in the middle overs you'll have the spinners bowling with Cummins, and then at the death you can save 1 over of Shami, 3 of Harshal, 1 of Cummins, and maybe 1 of the leggies could bowl a bit deep. So there are options. Now Cummins has the mind to, he has the brains to utilize all his bowling resources, and I'm sure he's going to do it pretty well. And if one of the pacers goes down in the tournament, is not well, has picks up an injury, then they have the likes of a Jaydev Unadkat who can come in, especially in slowish conditions. Maybe in certain conditions, you can bring Unadkat for the slower ones, the cutters that he can induce, and maybe leave out one of the spinners for him. So that is another backup that they have in the reserves.
I think that's definitely a formidable playing 12 there, Naman. And I was actually going to ask you the prediction of where they would end up in the season, but Ujjwal very cheekily goes on to add that Ishan will hit 35 sixes, 35 plus sixes in this season. Let's probably get your thoughts on that and where SRH will end up this season. Last season, they just ended up, short in the final. But do you see a redemption on cards for them?
See, first coming to Ishan Kishan, he has had a very unlucky 12 or 18 months in the past. I mean, he was right there in the reckoning. He was among the first picks in the Indian team up until that South Africa tour where he pulled out. I mean, he would have kept in that Test series, and he would have played the England series that followed up at home as well. But because he pulled out, is why Jurel was brought in, and he did pretty well, and he has cemented his spot as the backup keeper in the Test squad at this point. And since then, all those disciplinary issues that came in with him, and not being handed the central contracts, and not doing the best of returns for Mumbai, not being picked or retained by them, would have been very disheartening for him, because they went pretty big for him in the previous mega auction. They brought him back into the setup. They treated him as one of their all-time players, and then to not be retained and not being even like picked at the auction, it would be very disheartening for him. So he has everything to gain out of this season. I mean, this is his opportunity to go big, get one of those 400 or 500 seasons, hit those 35 plus sixes as Ujjwal rightly says, and redeem himself for the Indian setup, because currently he's not in the reckoning for any 3 formats. He was fitting the most for the T20, but there Sanju has taken up his chances like a fish to water, and he's really become the first choice keeper over there. In ODIs, ever since Pant and KL are both back, they are the designated keepers in that format. So he has a big point to prove. He's got to get those runs and stake his claim for the T20 World Cup next year. Then coming out to predictions over where they would finish, while they have the batting to score all those runs, I still feel that with the bowling, they can concede the same number of runs as well. So, not extremely confident about them. And I believe even they would finish probably somewhere in the middle around 5 or 6, or maybe sneak in at 4. They can, like, again, whether they're imploding or they're exploding, that's what's gonna decide. But I wouldn't say that I see them clearly making it to the top 4 just because of the explosive batting lineup that they have. Because I am somebody who cuts a bit of slack to the bowlers, and I would like to see the bowlers dominate them on certain decks.
Yeah, and I think this season will be defining in that respect. Can they kind of repeat the heroics of 2024 and just, kind of ride the wave with their batters doing the bulk of the job? But I'm sure they're going to break a lot of records, right? I mean, you see the discourse around the kind of batting unit they have. They're possibly aiming for a 300. So I think, for a lot of us test match purists and people, who still want ODIs to exist in T20s, we are going to see T20 on steroids thanks to SRH for that in that regard. But let's talk about our last team, in focus. That's Mumbai Indians, right? 2024 was such a disastrous season. I mean, Hardik Pandya coming back was supposed to be this exciting thing, but fans clearly didn't take to it. And I mean, we can talk about Hardik Pandya at length, the kind of redemption arc the man has had. But Mumbai Indians again ahead of the season, the kind of retentions they had, the kind of squad that they've built at the auctions. Naman, again, let's get your thoughts on how satisfied you are with, the kind of collateral damage that they kind of had to undergo. But now, are clearly back on track and looking good for you.
See, they have a brilliant first 11. If they manage to put out that 11 for 14 games, let alone 14, even if 10 games they're putting out that 11, they should win 7 to 8 out of those 10 games. That's how good they are. I mean, you look at it, their retentions in itself, man, they have got some class. Be it their batting, be it their bowling in the first 11, they are absolutely amazing on paper. The only issue with them is Bumrah. How fit is he? How fit is he? Is he really ready to start playing, or is he still a bit iffy? If he is not 200% fit, they should not be playing him. I mean, I feel IPL is important. It's the biggest league in the world. But in certain places, the BCCI should have the authority to tell even a strong franchise, a powerful franchise like Mumbai Indians, that hey, this guy is probably the most important asset for the national side. If he is not 200%, he is not playing for you. Please find something else. They've got to have that audacity. They've got to have that authority to tell a franchise like Mumbai Indians that if he is fit, if he is really running in, don't play him all the 14 matches. Please don't. He has a test series later on. Play him those 10, 11 games. He will win you three or four out of those. So a lot would depend on how fit Bumrah is for them. And again, like Achal mentions, they would be at 2020 level if Bumrah is fit, because all the other parts are totally figured out in this particular season. Previously, spin was an issue. Now they have good spinners. They have good overseas batters. Indian batting is absolute class, and they've got other bowlers in their ranks as well. Even without Bumrah, those bowlers have the potential to do pretty well. But if you add Bumrah to the mix, my God, they have some bowling attack to induce fears in the opposition.
Absolutely. And let's also take this question from Hari Prasad, a friend of the podcast, of course. Since Mumbai are known for unearthing unknown talents every season, who have you got your eyes on, Naman? I mean, Mumbai Indian scouting is known to do a good job across IPL and even WPL for that matter. But then anyone you're excited to see in MI colors this time around?
I'm really looking forward to Srijit, Krishnan Srijit, the lad from Karnataka. I'm really looking forward to him. Like, he's done pretty well in recent times in the domestic circuit, and he's one of their Indian keeping options if they decide not to play Ryan Riggleton in the 11. So he can be pretty well. He can be the one who can finish games for them. So he's one of those. And other than that, I do not see a lot of scouting picks. Like, there are the likes of Vignesh Putra and Satyanarayana Raju, but this time they're like, usually you would see 4 or 5 unknown names there in the squad. This time maybe it's just down to 2 or 3. So among these names, Robin Mins was a known commodity even in the previous season. He fetched quite a few bids. So among the local talents, I would like to see how they utilize Krishnan Srijit. Good wordplay, Achal. Ah,
Yeah.
so that's about this.
Fair enough. And again, Naman, let's talk about this hypothetical situation, where Bumrah is actually fit. You have the likes of Bumrah, Bolt, Chahar, and Hardik Pandya. I mean, how does this seam attack, like, look for you? And even the spinners coming into the fore, like Mumbai's bowling side of things looking, again, very formidable there.
Well, definitely. They have all boxes ticked in their bowling lineup if this playing 11 comes to the park. Uh, but then the major question there would be who will take the first over? You have Deepak Chahar, you have Trent Bolt, you have Bumrah, of course. Is Hardik Pandya still going to bowl the first over? Is my question over here. If yes, then we'll see a few eyebrows raised. If no, then let's see how it goes. But yeah, jokes apart, uh, they have they have Deepak Chair and Trent Bolt who can all bowl 6 overs in the part. They can bowl 8 overs at the top and just swing the ball around, pick up those few wickets. And both of them have been the power play bowlers for IPL over the past 5 or 6 years. I mean, Deepak Chair hasn't been the same bowler ever since he has had those fitness issues. He's even lost favor with the Chennai, hasn't played full season for the past 3 years itself. So his overall form, his overall ability has been slightly iffy. So let's see what is he able to bring to the Mumbai setup at this point of time. But if they are all fit and running in, then I believe they have a great pace attack. All of them can pick up wickets in the various phases, in the respective phases that they bowl in. And with regards to the spin attack, of course, there are quite a few options over there. They have somebody like Karan Sharma if they're going at it for an Indian spinner. They have Santner, who, like Ujjwal recently pointed out, his stocks has really, really, really risen in the recent past. New Zealand captaincy, he has taken a lot of responsibility, and and we know where he has been over the past 5 6 years. He has been in Chennai. He has been under, I mean, Thala for a reason, all of those things apart, but he has been there and he would have learned a great deal from Dhoni about how to bowl in India and even in the entire setup. Playing with somebody like a Jadeja, he would have learned a lot about how to bowl left arm spin in these conditions. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has taken a lot of leaves out of his book and bring all that experience that he's gained into the Mumbai setup. So these are the spin options. And then other than that, they also have Will Jacks who can chip in with a few overs in between wherever required. So yeah, okay. Will Jacks, what he did with RCB, yeah, I mean, he was gun. We'll come to the batting order in a while, but with regards to the bowling, they also have somebody like Gazi. They had Gazanfar, but I think he got injured, and they bought Mujibur Rahman as his replacement. So even if he gets a couple of games, if Sander is unwell or they want to use a different kind of spinner, then he can also bring something good to the setup. And he's Achal's favorite, so Achal would love to see him get a few games. Hari, you did not really have to bring that up, man. I was there at Wankhede on that dreaded day. Please, please don't. Yeah.
Yeah, the bygones are bygones now, and we will not bring that point up. But a lot of excitement, man, for Santner in our live chat here as well. But let's take a few questions. I mean, let's first take Ujjwal's comment on the Will Jacks point itself. Like you spoke about the batting, Naman. Like Will Jacks definitely adds a lot of impetus. But how does that batting order shape up for you, and it's giving you some sort of confidence?
See, the thing is, they have pretty good options for their top four. They have probably six great options to fit in their top four. So the way I look at is, I would like to play both Rickleton and Will Jacks because I see both of them doing amazingly well at the surface at Wankhede. The bounce is true. The ball comes very good on the bat. We have seen last year what Will Jacks can do. We've seen what Ryan Riggleton has been doing down there for South Africa in the SA20. He's been one of the top batters in the league for these 3 years. So I would like to see how he goes in India. So in my starting 11, I would start with Rickleton and Rohit there at the top, bring in Jacks at 3. Although because of that, you see somebody like a Tilak Verma slide down, but he has done that. Like he's done that for Mumbai for a long time. So you play Jacks at 3, Sky at 4, Tilak at 5. Then you have Hardik batting at 6. Then you can at number 7 you can have somebody like a Shedge, or you can have sorry, not Shedge, Srijit, not Shedge. You can have somebody like a Srijit at 7. You can have somebody like a Namandeep coming in at 7, who played for them the last year, and he was also RTM'd in this season, I believe. Namandeep was an RTM option, so that means they really rate him pretty highly within the setup. So that's where the impact player can come in at number 7, and then. You have in the bowling, you can have somebody like a Santner, you can have Bolt, and then the Indian quakes in the form of Deepak Jair and Jasprit Bumrah. So altogether, the 4 overseas picks from my end would be Bolt, Rickleton, uh, Nick Rickleton, Will Jacks, and the fourth one being Santner. So this is how I would see the 4 overseas spots coming up. That makes Tilak Verma slightly underutilized at number 5, but I believe that kind of a top 3, that top 3 doesn't have to stop. That top 3 has to play the intent brand of cricket that we have seen in recent times. That's how they have to go. Just go, 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 bang, bang, bang. If they lose 2 early wickets, then Tilak can come in at 4. Otherwise, you have Sky at 4 and Tilak at 5. So that's how they can probably move the pieces around a bit. And man, that's some batting lineup. That is some batting lineup. Like this is this is a batting lineup that can be slightly more consistent than the previous implode explode batting lineup that we talked about, because they have players who can really play the situations. But then again, like we saw how Tilak Verma recently played in that second T20. I think it was first second T20 against England at Chennai, right? The way Tilak Verma managed that situation, he has shown such maturity within these 3 years at Mumbai. Back in 22, he was just rated as a youngster coming in, but he has really become one of the reliable batters for this team. So he is their man for crisis. But again, Surya Kumar's form in the recent times hasn't been the greatest. He has slightly dipped off ever since he's become the captain. Maybe it's the captaincy burden, or maybe he's just not in the best nicks. So his numbers are not bad, but the standards that he has set for himself are next level. So let's see how well does he get back. And they have a very interesting lineup. Who replaces Bumrah for the first 2 weeks? Well, that is a great question, because their Indian pace attack is slightly thin. So what they can do here is, with the dead bowling is a major concern, definitely. So either they can back either they can back Pandya, Bolt, and Chahar as the three pacers. See, like Pandya has been giving 6-7 overs consistently, so maybe back Pandya as your third seamer, but then your death bowling is a major concern. Even other than that, I do not see any known commodities in their team. They have somebody like a Raj Angad Baba who can probably come in, but other than that, there's only Arjun Tendulkar. And I mean, let's be honest, he hasn't really induced as much confidence as a proper backup for somebody like a Bumrah. So, probably, if they have unearthed a new talent in the pace front, then maybe just unleash that one. Or alternatively, what they can do is they can let go of one of Jacks or Rickleton in this setup that we have talked about. Any of them, because they have Indian keeping options who can come in, and they can play one of Reece Topley or Lizard Williams. But then again, even if you play a Topley, you have Topley, Bolt, and Chair. All three of them are very similar in the kind of variety that they bring to the attack. All of them are primarily power play bowlers. So depth, they are really struggling without Bumrah. They are really struggling big time, and which is where they probably need to unleash somebody new, or if they want to niggle somebody out of the setup and wait. Okay, yeah, Corbin Bosch has replaced Lizard. Thanks for that, Hari. I probably missed out on that. Oh yeah, we discussed that on the group. So maybe yeah, Corbin is probably somebody who can come in, but honestly, I'm not very familiar with the kind of variety he would bring to the attack, so would not be able to highlight a lot on his part. But again, they are going to struggle without Bumrah at the death. And in that case, by default, they need to have 20-30 extra runs on the board if they are defending a total, or if they are chasing, maybe, be ready to score 20-30 runs extra. Madwal, yes, big miss. I mean, I was quite surprised that they did not use the RTM on him. I really thought that Madwal should have been their option, but because they had good options for Indian batters, they have Robin Mins, Krishnan Srijit, they have those options there. So using it on Naman, I'm not sure if that was the best call, but let's see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong over the course of time. But if he would have been there, then he would have slotted in pretty well.
Fair point there, Naman. And also, let's take this comment of Ujjwal that I did want to also ask you about. That Rohit might just have the best season ever with no real responsibilities. He might express himself even more. Your thoughts, Naman, on Rohit Sharma? Again, we see the time kind of ticking, on his international career. But probably for Mumbai Indians, we still can probably expect a few more seasons, right? With this retention and all of that happening. But excited to see the brand of cricket that Rohit Sharma might possibly unleash and just see him carry on that momentum.
So with Rohit, to be honest, over the past 5-6 seasons, he hasn't had big IPL seasons. I mean, I don't think he has had one or more than two 400 plus seasons for Mumbai in the IPL. Even the 300 plus seasons have been pretty few. But so Rohit, the batter in IPL, hasn't. Rohit, the batter for India across formats, has been bigger than Rohit, the batter for Mumbai. So that is one thing. Now he's really got to bring that batting element into the Mumbai setup. He might just express him even more. He's gonna do that anyway. He's shown it since 2023 that he'll come into bat and he'll just express himself. He's fine with playing those 12 ball 25 and getting out. He's comfortable with it. And in this kind of a setup, he can probably afford to do that. Does he necessarily need to do it? Probably not, because he has free flowing cricketers around him who can do it. But Rohit's brand is not the one of being a sheet anchor. He's not going to do that role. He's going to explode, and he'll let others around him do the same. But given if they were to lose two or three early wickets and Rohit is still there at the crease, then he has to take the approach of taking things slow. Then he has to take the approach of building the innings, which obviously he can do. Recently, we saw in that game where he stitched together a partnership with Rinku Singh, and he scored 100 in that game as well. So he has got both the facets to his game. But now his natural approach is to go hell for leather and score those runs at the top. So yeah, no real responsibilities for sure. But then of course he would want to get that 6 star on his badge over there and his seventh overall. So he has the hunger. He has the hunger for more, and he definitely has the hunger to win the 27 World Cup. And I don't see him going from IPL or anywhere before that. There are reports that he might still be retaining the Test captaincy and will be leading India in the 5 Test series in England. So all of those are signs that he's not taking anything lightly at this point of time. He's as hungry as he's ever been. Now it's just about bringing a few of those, putting up a few more runs on the board. He needs, like, if even if he has a 350 season, it's great. If he has a 400 season, it's pretty amazing, because that's what you require from Rohit in that kind of a setup.
Yeah, let's hope Rohit Sharma has that sort of a season, because the man in full flow is an absolute beast to watch, and I think the Mumbai fans would really love to see that sort of a version. But yeah, Naman, almost as we reach the end of our discussion as well, what's your prediction on Mumbai Indians? Right, where are they going to end up? Do you see a better, sort of a season than the 2024 one? Yeah.
Depends on how many games Bumrah is playing. If Bumrah is missing just 2 or 3 games, they can make it to the playoffs. If Bumrah had been playing all 14, they would have been there. In my opinion, they would have definitely made it to the playoffs, no doubt. But given the shadow over Bumrah's availability, if he is out for currently, what's the status? Is he out for the first 2 3 games or more than that? Yeah.
I think it was, the first two games. Yeah.
If it's just the first 2 3 games, then we anyway know Mumbai is slow starter. They will lose the first game they've been losing the first game for the past 10 years or so. So that's not an issue. That's not a major issue. But if it is stretching for more than that, if it is stretching over 4 or 5 games, and they are not winning the first few matches that they are playing, then yeah, huge doubts. So again, with Bumrah, they are definitely qualifying. With Bumrah playing 10 11 games, they are definitely qualifying. If Bumrah is playing around 7 to 8 games, then yeah, I'm not too sure about them. Because even if they have the batting, they do not have the kind of death bowling to control the runs if they are defending. And even with their spin attack, although they have somebody like a Santner, I mean, he's not a spinner who would induce fear in the batting opposition. A lot of times it comes down just to the impact that a bowler is having on the mindset of a batter, or a batter is inducing in the mindset of the bowler. With that perspective, I don't see oppositions being scared against the spin of Santner. They might get out trying to hit him, but they wouldn't be scared of going after him.
And Achal also goes on to ask us that who plays for
Yeah.
Hardik in the first match? Yeah, because we know Surya is stepping in as the captain. But again, Naman, your thoughts
Right.
on who steps in?
I think they should give Raj Angad Baba a go. Just let him go. Just let him unleash him, see what he has to bring. He's also a pacer. So if he does well, he can be your replacement for Bumrah in those few games until he comes back. So playing Raj Angad Baba in that game fills in the hole that Pandya leaves for that one game. Give him a few overs, see what he brings. If he's doing well, then he automatically becomes a selection for the replacement for Bumrah. So in the opening game, like if I have to be particular, then maybe Namandir definitely slots in and Raj Angad Baba slots in, and then basis how things go further. Like maybe Namandir goes out of the 11 into the 12. He can come in as an impact sub, and then you have Namandir and that other guy Srijit as the alternatives for coming in as the impact sub. For this first game, Namandir is at 6, and Srijit is an impact candidate, and Bava is there in the 11.
Yeah, I mean, Raj Angad Baba has made a case for himself, right? We've seen him right from that under 19 World Cup, doing well in domestics here and there. Hopefully, he just doesn't fade away like a lot of the under 19 players, and he can actually make a real mark for himself this season. But yeah, folks, that I think does conclude part one of our IPL preview series. I think so far Naman has just given us one team who would make it into the playoffs, that is CSK and Mumbai. If they have Bumrah possibly playing, we have five more exciting teams tomorrow as well. So join us there. We loved reading your comments in our live chat tonight. And for those who are tuning in later, please do share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll make sure to kind of address them. But yeah, folks, that's all for tonight. Good night. Thank you so much, Naman. See you tomorrow, and looking forward to another great show.
Thanks, Neha. Looking forward to tomorrow as well. Cheers.
Cheers.